At the beginning of Parshas Tzav, this week's Torah portion, the Torah begins by describing the laws of the Karban Olah, the laws of the burnt offering. The Torah tells us that this Karban, this sacrifice, which was completely burnt and it was not at all eaten, it was completely gifted to God. It would stay on the altar all night, and in the morning, the very first service that was done, the very first service that was performed was lifting the ashes off of the altar and placing them on the side. Seems very simple, and it seems very, very mundane. You got ashes on top of the Mizbeach, you got to get them off, you take a shovel, you pick it up, you put it on the side. But the Torah tells us that the Kohen, the priest that would perform this actual avodah, that would do this service, was mandated to change his clothing beforehand into linen clothing. V'lavash hakohen midovad u'michnesevad yilbash al basaro. The Kohen had to actually change out of what he was wearing into linen clothing, take a shovel, lift the ashes off the Mizbeach, and place them on the side of the altar. And afterwards, the Torah tells us, he took those clothing off and changed into something else. The Torah is teaching us something which is really very important about our spiritual activity. Sometimes you may think that what we're doing is really, really mundane. This is not dynamic spiritual activity. This is just something like simple. Taking ashes off the Mizbeach, cleaning up the mess. I'm not going to change my clothing for that. It's not important to God that I'm cleaning up a mess. The Torah tells us, no, that's not true. Every level of spiritual activity that we engage in is so important in God's eyes. It's worthwhile changing our clothing and doing something special just to prepare for it. My dear friends, it's very easy for us to get lost in these times and think that the small things that we do, whether it's the small acts of Torah study, if they're shorter than normal, if it's getting ready for Passover, cleaning your car, whatever it might be, you may think, this is just mundane. This is not so important. God doesn't care so much about it. But you know what? The Torah tells us that's not true. Even if it's as simple as cleaning up a mess from the top of the altar, change your clothing, put on your linen clothing, get ready for it, because God loves it. If He loves it, you should love it as well. Have a wonderful day.